Good evening, good morning, good afternoon from where you are. Welcome to our 13th series webinar from the time we started IELTA Kenya, and the fourth this year, 2025. Our guest speaker is from Cameroon. He's English and French language teacher and also regional pedagogic inspector in charge of the teaching and promotion of bilingualism at the Regional Delegation for Secondary Education of the Central Region of Cameroon. He is a government worker working for the Ministry of Secondary Education in Cameroon. And before he starts, I have a poem from Brandon about Cameroon, and I'll just read it for you. It says, I am Cameroon, a land birthed from more than 200 ethnic groups, dwelling in West Central Africa, blessed with vibrant landscapes. If you are coming from the east, listen to the rustling of the leaves and the twittering of the birds. In the Central African Republic's rainforests, they are guarding you to where I am, while murmuring to you tales about the natural world's love for humanity. If you are coming from the northeast, Chad's camels will bring you. Listen to their grunts. They carry stories about humility, patience, and perseverance in the face of adversity. If you are coming from the south, you would have more than enough guidance. Do not ignore the roaring of the rivers in Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, and the Republic of Congo. Listen to the soothing sounds of the rivers, encouraging you to keep going, not only to where I am, but to where your dreams are. If you're coming from the west, adore the eagle soar. Adore the eagle soar. Look at what it carries. Nigeria is meant to be a land where freedom of expression and fine leadership flourish. On our way, we get me kola nuts for a ceremony to address the self-seeking leadership and discrimination that are turning me into ruins. I shiver because many young ones appear to admire them, the way ants love sugar. The ceremony shall evoke a sense of community. It shall elicit the spirit of goodwill. It shall inspire the spirit of mutual respect. It shall unearth fairness. It shall make me admirable. Because for me to be admirable, my children and institutions must be admirable. Not because of their physical appearances, but because of the light emanating from their hearts. That's Aye Brandon Kiven from Cameroon. I read this poem this morning and I was delighted that you joined us, but wasn't able to join us as a welcome poem to you, Robert. Welcome to the session, Saturn. Welcome all participants. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. What a lovely poem. What a great start, Margot. I really enjoyed the poem. I see was talking about Cameroon and most especially the geography of the area here and all it has as asset for the whole world. Thank you very much indeed. Hello, dear participant. Good afternoon. Here in Cameroon, we are in the afternoon, so it's it's 3 p.m. here. So 3:41 exactly here in Cameroon. So good afternoon, good evening, or good morning. It depends on wherever you find yourself now. We're going to have this session today entitled Gamification in the English Language Classroom, Engaging Learners and Inspiring Achievement. Actually, we know we are in learning. We actually need to use a lot of game elements to be able to make our lessons very enticing for our learners. Welcome to this session. So, Let's begin with the objective of the session. We would like to define what the gamification is in the English language teaching, to explore its theoretical foundations, and then explore practical and gamified activities. We would like to identify technology tools that we can use in our classroom for gamification and discuss gamified assessment. Because when we gamify our assessment, they are also good for the learners and they make them very competitive for them. So yeah, as outlined, we will talk about gamification and game. What is the difference between gamification and game? We will talk about game element, the game element and the principles of games. We will talk about theoretical foundations of gamifications, and we will ask ourselves why and answer this question, why gamifying our lessons, and we would lastly talk about some gamification activities that we can carry out in our classroom. So I would just like you to type in the chat box what comes to your mind when you hear gamification. Could you just type in the chat box what you think comes to your mind when you hear gamification? When you hear gamification, what comes to your mind? Using games when teaching. Kamala, great game. That's great, Traore. Yes. Games, using games when teaching. Yes. Any other proposals? Yes. Using games to enhance teaching and learning. That's wonderful, Emali. There is the word games. That's great from Henry. Teaching in a fun way that looks like games. I love this one, Immaculate. Making learning English fun. That's great, Leonard. Thank you very much for your contributions. You could keep contributing and sharing with us. So we want to talk about the game element principle and principles. So actually, when we talk about game elements, we're talking about using points, for example, using badges, achievements, using leaderboards, using levels and progressions, just as in a game. So we want to talk about the quests and the challenges and the mission. Remember that in a game, we have a mission to achieve. So when you're gamifying the lessons, you also want to get a mission that will be achieved at the end. And remember, in games, we always have rewards at the end. It could be a trophy that you're going to win. We have incentives. It could be, we could have avatars or personalizations in games. And remember, in games, we generally have feedback, and generally the feedback is instantly. You receive it instantly. For example, you could see a correct, you can see a pop-up, you can have a sound effect. And we also have as game element something like a story, for example, narrative story. So for some principles of gamification, we have, you can pass, you can fail. It is safe. Safe failure is part of gamification. Fun and engagement is part of gamification. Social interaction is part of gamification. Remember, in some games, people have to play in teams. And when it becomes a team, there is social interaction. And in games too, we have challenges. You have to compete. Yes, we actually have some clear rules and goals in games. That's the same we would like to apply in the classroom. You have urgency, you have to work immediately. And actually, participation is usually voluntary. And then you have immediate feedback anyway, immediate feedback. And as you're progressing in the game, you know, you have a sense of progress and accomplishment as you're progressing in the game. So that's what here are some game elements and principle. So How many of you have used any kind of game or game-like activity in your English classroom before? And if you have used any, what's that positive experience you've had with the game in the classroom? What you would like to do is then share in the chat box if you have used any game in your classroom and how the experience you have of it. Yes, using game is enjoyable and it is interactive. Thank you, Aina, for sharing with us. I use a lot of monster books. That's great, Vusala. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. When I feel that students were tired, I use games. That's great. When I feel the student, yes, I use games and it helped me promote interest and students' participation. This is wonderful. Yes, I love this interest and participation. Thank you. So let's progress. What is gamification actually? Gamification is the application of game design element and principle in a non-game context. Remember, if I ask you the question, is our classroom, is education a game? What are you going to answer me? Is education, is the classroom a game? What are you going to tell me? Is the classroom a game? I see that it allows learners to see the real world application. And yes, somebody said purposeful game. Yes. Yes, no, for Azu, a classroom. Yeah, education is actually not a game. Thank you, Azu. It's not a game, but we would like to transform the lesson into a game. So we want to use game design element and game principle, the element that we just saw up here, to make it, to gamify the classroom, to make education a game. Actually, and what we are seeing here is that it's not just playing a game, but it is making the classroom interactive and fun. The use of game element in non-game context or situation. So actually, gamification means using non-game element in using game elements in a non-game context or situation, because education, the classroom, is not a game context. Yes, the key idea is that it's not just playing a game, but it's about playing, applying game mechanics in the language, in the teaching. So that's what we're discussing today. So which of these is an example of gamification in a classroom? If you've actually got the definition, which means using game element in a non-game context, which of this one is going to be an example of gamification? Using game element in a non-game context. You can type the one you think is going to be. You choose all for Vusala. Education. All. B. In my opinion, games are for, yes. C for is man. All for a fed. Yes. Actually, remember that it's not a game, but using game elements in a non-game context. What are game elements? We saw some of the game elements up. So it's playing chariots to practice verb a game. Is giving point for correct answer, leading to top learner leaderboard. Gamification is using a board game to review vocabulary. Gamification. Remember that gamification is the use of game element in a non-game context. So you want to check the game element that we have here. So let me get some answers again. Yeah, we have Mahire says all. Many, yeah. Azu says B. Immaculate C. B for Abasova. Yes. Okay. So Actually, we can see here that playing chariot to practice verbs is actually a game, but actually there is no gamification there because we don't see any element of the game. But giving points for correct answer leading to a top leaderboard. Remember that we have a game, we generally will classify who's the first, who's the second. So this is a game element. Top learner leaderboard is a game element. When we play football, for example, we will say in Group C, this is the top, Group B, this is the top. We will classify the learners. So that is, it makes it competitive. This is a game element in B. Using board game to review vocabulary is simply a game, but not gamification actually in the classroom. So the answer here is B because we have the leader board. Chariots and board games are games. They are not the application of game element to a lesson. That is the explanation. So gamification is the application of game element to a lesson in a non-game context. So chariots, they are games. Board games are games. That is the answer here. So why do we gamify our lessons? Why do we use game elements like points, like rewards, like challenges, like competitions, like feedback, leaderboard in our lessons? Can you just provide some answers? To engage students, that is great, Abasova. Thank you very much. To engage students, yes. For motivation, this is wonderful, Nasreen. To make learning fun, that's wonderful. Great, 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 great answers from you. Yes, wonderful answers from you here. Make lessons interesting, joyful, deeper understanding. Yes. Attract children. Great, Ismet. To get students involved in teaching and the learning process. Thank you, Traore, for your contribution. This is wonderful indeed. So we use them, we gamify the lessons for active participation. We gamify lessons to make them more enjoyable, make learning more enjoyable, to make learning more interactive. Yes. So this is the Dikeva et al. In the research, their research highlights increased motivation and active participation and improved learning outcomes from gamified environments. So according to them, when we gamify the lessons, we have increased motivation, active participation, and improved learning outcomes. So the same for Prensky. Digital natives, for example, if we use digital games in the classroom, we're going to have our learners to practice the use of ITTs and technology. Yes. And this is what we should use for our digital native. They say it in 2001. Some gamified language activities. So we could have vocabulary battles like war word, for example, or quizzes. Remember, we have this toolkit, this tech tool that is called quizzes. You can use quizzes to prepare lessons. You can also use quizzes to make interactive assessment for your learners. So we have role-playing missions like creating scenario with XP points, for example, grammar Jenga, like a block, you have a block, and on each block you have a question, for example. Whenever the learners, they take a block, then they open, then they have a question and they answer the question and get points. You could have escape room grammar quests, like problem solving to escape, like yeah, they are actually in a room and it's like with a path, and whenever they answer a question or solve a problem, they move until they get out of the room. Yes, you could have a story dice challenge. That is, you have like a board, you throw the dice. If it falls on 2, then you move to 2, and then there is a question there. You ask the questions, and the learners, they tell a story. For example, what is that first? How was your first day at school, for example? And they have to narrate it. What element, what were your impressions about your first class? So you're going to draw a board with questions. They throw a dice. If it falls on a number, then they have to answer the question narrating a story, for example. So some practical gamified activities in the English language classroom. So if you want to focus on promoting fluency, collaboration, and problem solving, you could use a vocabulary challenge tower, for example. So student earn breaks, for example, for correct vocabulary usage in a sentence. Mix sentences, for example. If they make a good sentence use, and that's what you could do with your learners. You divide them in groups, and each group earns a point when they make a correct sentence with a vocabulary word that you've taught in your classroom. So you could do that. So for example, if you could share your own idea. Yeah, you could use this one, which is choose your own adventure story. For example, start a story in English. At key points, students or group vote or decide on the next plot twist. For example, this is, yes. So you have a text, for example, you can read the text, and at some point you ask them to tell you what is going to follow. And if the group that gets the correct thing to follow gains points, for example, yes, the pro yes. So we want now to talk about digital tools that we can use for gamifications. Remember, today we're talking mostly about technology and in the classroom, and mostly education technology. So you can use this tech tool that is called quizzes. Quizzes is quite good. You can use it to be able to produce lessons, PowerPoint lessons online. And the PowerPoint lessons could also uh, in, in, incorporate questions. You could embed questions into the PowerPoint. So you have like the first slide is a text, and the second slide is a question that the students will answer. You could also use Kahoot, for example. Kahoot is great and it's free. The difference between Kahoot and in quizzes is that Kahoot will only help you make assessments. And in Kahoot, there are only 2 free types of assessment of questions that you can produce. For example, in Kahoot, you can only have true or false or MCQs, whereas in quizzes, you could have open-ended questions. For example, you can ask students, why do you think, and they have to produce long sentences or even paragraphs. Whereas with quizzes, with quizzes you can do that, whereas with Kahoot you can't do. With quizzes, you can you can even ask students to draw something, and they will be able to do that on quizzes, and you get the answers. Uh, Quizzes too would permit you, apart from just true and false or MCQs, to have fill in the blank questions, which you don't have with Kahoot. So if you try this quizzes, maybe next time, Margot could give me Margot, if you permit, next time we could work on using Kahoot or using quizzes in the classroom. So our participants actually see how they can use them to produce assessments for their learners. So We could also talk about this classroom management with points and badges and avatars. That is Class Dojo, which is also another ed tool that you can use. Genially. Genially is actually wonderful because with Genially and Canva, you could produce even videos. So it's wonderful for for learners in the classroom. So you could create interactive visuals with it. You could also do that with Canva. You could even have escape rooms with it. You could have game boards with Genially as well as with Canva. So another another tool that we could use to be able to gamify our classrooms is Google Forms. Google Forms, with Google Forms, you actually can create a test for your learners. You can assess your learners. Many people use Google Forms only for surveys, but actually you can create the assessment with Google Forms, adding points for questions. And there you have MCQ questions, you have fill in the gap. You also have open-ended questions that you could ask your learners. So you could even ask them to add a picture and they will do so. You could also use Padlet. Padlet is very great. Yes. With Padlet, I usually use a Padlet for collaborative writing generally. So the learners, they write and the other people come and then they are able to comment just like on WhatsApp. The only difference being that on Padlet, the learners can see the answers of all and the productions of all the other classmates, and they could actually under it produce their own comment. Another thing is Quizlet. Quizlet is wonderful for vocabulary. We could use Quizlet in our classroom for vocabulary. And here, Quizlet is wonderful vocabulary. It will help you not only to teach pronunciation, but also to teach the spelling and the use of it in sentences. It will also get students to match the word with the pictures, which is great for our English language classroom. So here are some of the technology tools that we can use. So we could use World Word. They use for custom games, and I would like to tell you that World Word is Word World is free, and there is also a paid version. Genially, you use it for interactive tasks. It's free. You can use Classcraft, which is for gamified management in the classroom. Kahoot for quizzes. It is free if you use the basic mode of it. Padlet 2 is for collaborative tasks. It is free if you use the basic mode of it. So digital tools for gamification. Let's engage in this discussion. Which of the tech tools have you used or are you interested in exploring? Maybe you could tell also the next time. Margot and the team, we plan another presentation of using. Which one are you interested in? You may also want to see interest. You can just write interested, then you put, and then have used, then you put the one that you've used for us to see. So next time, this can help us. Bricks Learning interested. That's wonderful. Thank you. Margot, we could be taking down notes. So next time we try. Interested in the use of Kahoot. That's wonderful. Classroom Dojo. That's great. Yes, Canva, wall, that's great. Canva, Google Meet. Yeah, I think the person is talking about Google Forms. So I can see Kahoot coming back again. Canva, Kahoot, Google Forms, Kahoot. Oh, A lot of people are interested in using Kahoot. With Kahoot, we can make MCQs and true and false questions. So if you're interested in Kahoot, I can see Kahoot coming more often here. Yes, Class Dojo, great. Claudia, okay, great. So yeah, I mean, but no one has to. Yes, Edpuzzle, great. Yes, Edpuzzle is wonderful too for listening in the classroom, and I use it a lot. Edpuzzle, when you use Edpuzzle, Edpuzzle helps you to break listening to be able to ask questions for your learners to answer, which is quite good. Yeah, many people are saying Kahoot. I can see Emily Joe emphasizing on the Kahoot again. Praise too. Good, good, good. Yes, Kahoot is, yes, yes. Maybe if possible, we can play a Kahoot. Yes. Uh, I have Kahoot, but I'm not sure this session can permit us do so. But I have prepared Kahoot already. If we have time by the end, and if Margot permits, we can do that.
Yeah, sure.
So,
We can have a few minutes for that so that at least people will
oh,
leave when they've practiced something.
okay, okay. So what challenges might you face using technology for gamification in your context, and how might you overcome such challenges? Do you think you might face challenges using technology in your context? Yeah, many people are talking about Kahoot. Internet connection is a great challenge. Yes, 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 yes. So actually, yes. I understand. Yes, it might be a big challenge, internet connection. Yes, internet, yes. Equipment, yes, it might be a problem too. Internet, YouTube is very useful. Thank you, Afet. Yeah, internet, it can be hard. Yes, good. Yeah, availability of resources. No, 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 no. Gamification is not only possible with technology. This is a very good question. Wonderful question. It's not just possible with technology. No, you can. There are. When I was talking about board games, for example, when I teach a vocabulary lesson, then at the end I draw. I come up with a large cardboard. On the cardboard, I write questions and I cover the questions. I write questions in a form of like squares or rectangles, and I cover the questions with pieces of paper. So when on the pieces of paper that I use to cover the question, I write points. So it could be 300, it could be 200, it could be 400, it could be 500, and I divide the class into groups. Once I divide the class into groups, I then ask the group one, choose a question. You choose a question. So you say 400 point or 300 point, and I go to the board then, and then I remove the paper that has the piece of paper that has 400 point, and we read the question that the paper was covering. If you're able to answer the question correctly, then you earn 400 points. That's how it is. It's not with only technology in the classroom. Yes. So you can do that without technology at all. We can play games. The one I talked to you about, the one with the dice. The one with the dice is that you have a board like the one we play when we have a dice with the squares. So you put the dice on the board, and then you ask questions. It could be, for example, when they throw the dice and it falls on two, they're going to you ask the question that is on two, and the person has to narrate the story. It could be like simple past tense, for example. If they throw the dice and it falls on 3, question number 3 could be like, talk about your first day at school, and they have to narrate to their classmate or to the entire class. So it depends on the way you can practice gamification. Yes. We can have some troubles in the classroom. Yes, that's why I download videos. Yes, good. This can also be a problem. Yeah, remember that when you play games in the class, that's why we talked at the beginning about the rules. If you draw your rules so well, and then you get your learners to face any problems, because the learners are going to understand the rules, and you tell them, if you don't practice the rules, then you don't follow the rules, then your group is going to lose maybe some points. It could be -1. So that's it. Yes. I can see this person saying rolling the dice is interesting. Yes, a table with several questions or topics that students will have to answer. Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you. Yes, I have some internet problems and equipment at school, but I try to use some of them. Yes, that's wonderful, Kamala. I also use rolling dice. It's an amazing technique. That's wonderful. Thank you, Asel. Yes, so it's always great to try as many as possible and see the ones your learners are most interested in, and then you use them quite often. So uh, your classrooms are gamified. Yes. What traditional activity could you gamify, for example? Could you tell us some? We want to blend the approaches. What traditional approach can you gamify? Like, for example, which lesson, for example, can you gamify? We said we can gamify a vocabulary lesson. How? Which one also can you gamify? Can you gamify your reading? Can you gamify listening? Yes. I use uh, I use how many words in a minute for vocabulary. Yes, Traore. I also use rolling dice. Yes, of course. Yes, which one can you gamify? Which activity in your classroom can you gamify? You want to tell us some of the activities that you find the word, yes. Dramatize, that's great. Listening and writing, yes. They must write what they hear, yes. And I love this one with writing. They must write what they hear. Yes, yes, that's great. They listen and they write what they hear. That's great. I use vocabulary picture. Yes. Who am I? Guess the word. That's great. Yes. After learning new words, I ask children to make short stories. That's great too. Yeah, I have this one with writing too. You may um I divide them into group. Then I start a story. I give the first sentence of the story, and each group has to produce another sentence to be able to complete the story. And the sentence that comes after the previous one should actually tie with the story. And at the end, we have a great story. So, and if your sentence is correctly written, then your group earns point. Yes, guess the word, change stories, speaking stories in English is very important. That's great. Thank you for sharing with us, Afid. Word formation can also be a great activity for the learners. Yes, this is wonderful for vocabulary. Yes, so you could give them words, and if they form a good word, then they earn some point from, they form a word from a new one, from a new word from an existing word, then they earn points. That's great. Guess the word, this is wonderful. And making a story with, yes, using, yeah. I also use a lot of this one, ASL, making story with pictures, using new vocabulary. Yes, this is wonderful. Thank you for sharing with us. So we can have grammar drills that is turn into bingo or spin the wheel. We could have reading comprehension. You turn into find the clue, for example, mystery. You turn it into find the clue mystery, for example. Yes. Um, You could also have some listening tasks that you turn into mission unlock games, for example. Yeah, there are just so many. So some tips for getting started with gamification. If you want to start gamification in your classroom, you start small, one activity. Yes, you have one activity at a time. Then you use familiar tools if you're actually using tech. And if you're not using tech, you could also use tools that are familiar to your learners. If it is the dice, use tools that they know. If it is the blackboard that you want to use, if it is cardboard, use tools that they can easily manipulate. Focus on learning, not just on fun, please. It's mostly, yeah, if students have fun but they don't learn anything, then you haven't achieved your goals. Yes, use storylines to make it immersive, and then involve students in the rule creation. Yes, create rules so for your games and involve the learners in the rule creation. So assessment and evaluation in gamification classroom. So beyond traditional testing, you could actually, as I said, use games to be able to test your classroom, because gamification offers alternative forms of feedback and progress tracking, especially if you're using tools. If you make a test on Kahoot, for example, remember that your learners do not need to have the tool or the device in the classroom. You could just have a WhatsApp group with your learners, and then you send the link to them. And once they get the link, they start practicing the game uh, from the link. And what is good there is that they have instant feedback. So when the question, when they have a wrong answer, it will immediately tell them that your answer is wrong and give them the correct answer, which is quite good. So, and generally for the technology in a classroom, they have a progress bar. So remember, when you're filling a Google form, if it's your test is you've done it with Google, there is always a progress bar that will be telling you how far you've gone. You have in some games, for example, you have some badges. When you use, you have some badges, and you have to also have some trophies. So how can struggle with traditional exams? I think I've also, but you could give us some uh your own ideas here. How can gamify assessment motivate learners who might struggle answers in the chat box? Making stories with pictures using I use shiritori in vocabulary. Wow, I would like to know about this one. Snowball activity, that's wonderful. The student use new words. Wonderful. Yeah, we use Google Forms for summative assessment. Yeah, you could actually use it for that too. Afterward, please send the slides. Yeah, okay, great. You will receive them. And you also have the recording. Teachers assess the student. Yes, great. So assessment motivate learners who struggle with traditional exams. Uh, any connection is bad, Asen, but I think I can still see and hear all of you. So yeah, actually, when you gamify your assessment, when it's in a form of game, it's quite motivating for the learners. Yeah, it becomes quite motivating for the learners, especially those who are struggling with traditional exams. Remember that the traditional exam in the classroom, your learners, they write a test. Generally, we give them tests on pieces of paper. They write and they give you, you go grade and come back. But when it's in a form of a game, they feel more interested and they interact the more. And also, if you have used like say computerized games like the edtech tools like Kahoot or quizzes or Quizlet, immediately they have feedback. It's not like you're going to go home, grade the assignment before bringing the feedback to them. Immediately after the doing the activities, the learners have feedbacks. When they answer a question, I mean, in the form of a game, it says wrong answers. When they answer it, if it's correct, they say correct answer. You grade. I mean, they have instant feedback, and it's quite motivating for them because it helps them actually know how to progress instead of waiting for you to come in the next class to tell them how the exam works. And at times we take much time grading the assignment. So now gamify it. Yeah, I think you may just take this and you try to see, think of a specific English language skills. It could be using past tense, describing places, expressing opinion, and design a very small gamified element, a challenge, minute. You could try to do that later. You could just, maybe you could snap this and you try to do this assignment later or do it in you profitable. So this is what we can use to recap this session. So by blending teaching methods with innovative gamification approaches, educators can create dynamic and personalized language learning experiences that cater to diverse levels. So you may want to tell us in the chat box what your key aways from this session and ask any questions you may have. One thing you think you may want to try in your classroom, what are your takeaways from this session? Any questions you have for us, you can type in the chat box and I'll be there to answer. Yeah. My internet. Oh, so sorry, Vusale. Your internet is. Thanks for sharing your ideas with us. I see. We use game, but we didn't have enough knowledge about gamification. It's great to be here today. Oh, thank you, Aisen. One key takeaway, Kahoot, please teach us how to use it. Oh, Margot, please, let's plan another session on Kahoot, please. Games and gamification are different things. That's wonderful. Thank you, Azu. We use tests, describe pictures or write essays or make up tests. And we organize many English competitions, puzzles, interesting things for learners. That's great. Are we going to get the recordings? Yes, I think you get the recording. You're going to get that, I'm sure. Yes. Any questions? Any takeaway you have? Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Claudia, for attending from Mexico. That's wonderful. Yes. Any questions? Yeah, maybe anything I miss, you let me know, Margot. Margot, please. So I'll just say thank you if you don't have any other question. And then if we have time, I will unshare my screen and try to look for a Kahoot. If Margot permits, we try to see how we can play a Kahoot just for some minutes. Yes. So Margot, thank you very much. And thank you all of you for attending this session. If you have questions, do not hesitate to I would like to know how you manage with learning situations in the classroom. So yeah, remember Traore that I said in the classroom, what you do is you set rules before the games. So you're to be able to manage, because it becomes rowdy when the learners are motivated and they are playing the games, because they would like to shout, they would like to. So with them, you try to set the rules and you subtract some points to those who make too much noise, so your class becomes, yeah, you set the rules with them. Thank you so much for a wonderful and useful tutorial. I think it would be better if all the pictures were uploaded to the group in PDF format. Okay, we'll try to do that. Uh, okay, Ainu from Azerbaijan, great. Yes, can you send certificate link? I think Margot will do that. Could you please share the link for the attendance? Yes, I think Margot too is going to do that. We have somebody from South Africa. Yeah, Martina. Yes. Thank you for attending, Martina. Yes, could you please share the link? Yes, Margot, people are asking for the link for attendance, and the link for certificate. I think you're the one in charge of that.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Robert. That was a very wonderful session. And at this juncture, I'll invite Immaculate, who is part of the leadership of IELTA Kenya. Immaculate is a teacher of English TESOL and English literature. She's also a writer and translator of Fulbright 24 Fellow. So meanwhile, you can try and prepare the Kahoot. We see whether we'll be able to do after the session, as Immaculate gives us a review of the session. Welcome, Immaculate.
Thank you so much, Margot, for the introduction. And most thanks to our presenter today, Robert. It has been a very wonderful session on application of game design elements and game principles in non-game context. That's the definition of gamification. And I can truly say I'm one of the people who really wants us to do the Kahoot, because there is usually a challenge I encounter. I would want to see whether it's going to show up as we demonstrate it. Otherwise, in the course of the presentation, we saw several tools, several games we can apply in our classroom for all the 4 skills. That's listening, speaking, writing, and speaking, listening, writing, and yeah, the 4 language skills. So thank you, our presenter. That was very wonderful. And also we realized that we have challenges that teachers encounter as they go through gamification. That is low internet connection, limited resources, and the one that is very major is that teachers are still not confident in using the tech tools. I am familiar with Kahoot. Personally, I'm familiar with Kahoot, but I'm still not very confident in using it in my classroom, especially a classroom that has 70 learners in Kenya. Yes, up to that juncture, I would like to make a presentation of a certificate to our presenter today. Yes. Just a minute. So our presenter, Robert Kenfack, this is the certificate from IELTA Kenya. Wow. And we truly appreciate your generosity in sharing your time and expertise as our speaker today. We've truly learned a lot on gamification. And on this particular day, we truly want to appreciate you as one of the teachers. Yes?
We are not seeing the certificate. People are just seeing my face.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, kindly share the certificate, please.
okay. Let me go back. Can you see the certificates?
Woo, wow. Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
And also that we don't take so much time, we get into trying the Kahoots. We would like to say asante sana, and we look forward to having more other interesting sessions from Cameroon
Hakuna,
and every other part
hakuna
of
matata. Hakuna matata.
Yeah,
the
yeah, true.
world.
So all
Let
participants
me
will also,
Mango.
yeah, sure. All participants will also receive a certificate. I'm sharing the link right away on the chat box. So once it will be just on for the next 15 minutes. So after the session, I've shared the link. So you'll get your certificates on your emails if you fill in the link. Thank you so much for participating.